Learn the secrets of success. Exclusive insights and information from the experts. Tag Radio. Ready to let your mind go wherever technology leads? Then tag, you're it. Tag Radio. Here today. Imagine tomorrow. So you're thinking about going global, or maybe you've broken the border barrier and have penetrated markets internationally. Well, you've only just begun. That's right. Think bigger than mere earthbound borders and take off to new frontiers. Imagine your products on other planets. Science fiction for some, next year's market sales increase projections for a technology company that is, well, out of this world. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, November 27th, 2007, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. Question: whose critical components for radar, secure communications, or electronics warfare systems do Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman all rely on? Name the leading company that provides off-the-shelf communication systems for defense, commercial and corporate aviation, and search and rescue applications. Oh, yes. Then there's that other planet stuff. Name the company that provides defense and space system products for the Pentagon and SATCOM satellite-based broadband communication systems that enable worldwide high-speed internet voice and video. And a company that does it all and is headquartered right here in Atlanta. Meet EMS Technologies, the leading innovator in the design and manufacture of wireless satellite and defense solutions. From voice-enabled and vehicle-mounted computers to mobile wearable wireless networking products. Satellite technology to advanced performance improvement devices for supply chain execution. If it's wireless, if it's satellite or defense, focused on the needs of broadband and mobile information markets on this planet or any other, it's Atlanta's own EMS Technologies. On today's Tech Talk, Tino Visioneers with EMS President and CEO Paul Domorski, member of the EMS Board of Directors and serves on the EMS Science and Technology Committee. Prior to taking the helm of EMS in June of 2006, Paul was Vice President of Avaya Corporation's $1.6 billion services operation business, and has also served as President of Concordia and as President and CEO during the restructuring of RSS International Communications. Paul has also served progressively advancing executive roles at Unisys, Burroughs, and Memorex earlier in his career. From broadband connectivity on airplanes to what's next in Star Wars-type defense technologies on this planet or in frontiers where man and computer are yet to go, Tino speaks with EMS President and CEO and the Atlanta Telecom Professional of the Year, Paul Domorski.
Paul, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk.
Thank you, Tino. Glad to be here.
I had the privilege of joining you at the ATP event this year, and I was really impressed with your comments. Congratulations on receiving that top honor. That must have been a special time for you and also a chance to talk a little bit about the company.
Well, Tino, it was a great honor. As I said that night, I accepted the award on behalf of the EMS team for their hard work and accomplishments over nearly 4 decades in the Atlanta community. As a company, we're often considered the industry's most best-kept secret, and it's good to see EMS getting some more visibility for contributing to Atlanta's reputation as a city that attracts and nurtures technology innovation. So I was very pleased with the honor to have been selected.
Well, we're glad we brought you to town here. You were the president and CEO of Avaya. Was that your position there?
I think you gave me a promotion.
I gave you a promotion, didn't I?
That I didn't deserve, but I was vice president of of their services operations business, which is putting in voice over IP networks and things like that. Prior to that, I spent roughly 10 years of my life in Europe and held a number of senior positions in Unisys and its predecessor companies, which were called Burroughs and Sperry and Memorex at the time. I think what drew me to EMS were really three things. I mean, the company's growth potential, which you're seeing now, its innovative products and talented people, which I talked on before, Tino. EMS has about 1,000 people, revenues of about $300 million. If you look at the businesses that we're in, you'll see that many of them are our growth companies and growth areas. Our wireless logistic business serves retailers and port facilities globally. Our defense business supplies critical RF and antenna technology on virtually all military communication satellites in orbit today. And our SATCOM business has something like a 90% market share for aero broadband systems that enable in-flight connectivity on both corporate and military VIP aircraft. Corporate-wide, our earnings have been growing. We've been fortunate to have been able to have that occur for the last 7 quarters, and our share price has certainly reflected some of that. So I like to say that I saw all those things, but EMS is a great company, and I was just happy to be part of it.
Well, as I said, we're glad to have you here, and I was amazed really at the percentage of growth that you announced, kind of annual percentage of growth at the ATP event. Maybe for our listening audience, talk a little bit about that, because I think people probably in this area, and you mentioned it already, see EMS is more of an older, staid organization, and really you guys are in a lot of growth areas and really on the cutting edge.
Well, if you look at the origins of the company, at one point in time, the company had 5 or 6 different divisions, and we have progressively, we've extricated the divisions that were not performing, and we have gone into and doubled down, frankly, in some of the divisions that were in growth areas. And if our SATCOM business, we've been investing in. Our defense business, we've brought in new leadership. We've changed the focus of the business. And in our LXE business, which has enjoyed something like 20 consecutive quarters of growth, we invested in those areas, and frankly, it has started to pay dividends. I mean, as I mentioned before, we've had 7 quarters where we've consecutively exceeded the growth in the prior quarter, and really revenues have been up, and earnings per share are at or near historical levels, and I think that's a good thing. And I think the market is starting to recognize that. We were voted recently one of the 200 best small companies in Forbes magazine. If you go into the current November 26 Forbes magazine article, there's a fairly large article on us as well, and these are things that EMS was not known for. I mean, we really weren't in the marketplace. We were that best-kept secret, but I think, frankly, by virtue of our performance, people are starting to understand that, A, the company has great technology, and as investors, that it's a pretty attractive place to be invested in.
Your headquarters are in Norcross, and you've been there since the beginning, right? And how is it to find staff in this area? You talked about 1,000 employees. Are most of them situated here in the Atlanta area?
About 2/3, are in this area. The other third are up in Ottawa, Canada, as well as in Europe and in the Asia Pacific. But I mean, finding employees is a challenge for us. I mean, not because of a volume issue, but given the projects that we work on, we have some of the best and the brightest. And I mean, our people understand advanced antenna technology. They understand communications that are on things like the stealth fighter and things like that. So, we work very, very closely with great institutions like Georgia Tech and other places like that to nurture talent. And when we find them, we add them. But we're growing. The number of jobs is up significantly this year, and we are trying to maintain the quality and increase the quantity. And so far this year, we've been fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Well, TAG's starting to push through its foundation this need for more engineers and getting kids excited about math, science, technology, and engineering. And I know EMS is a supporter of that through FIRST Robotics and other activities. Everything we read is the tremendous differential between the engineers graduating in places like China and India and here in the States. So I would imagine that, again, finding those quality engineers is something that you would see in the horizon is just going to be more challenging, I would think.
Well, I think again, we're going to continue to work together with TAG. We're going to continue to work together to make it happen. I think, again, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, frankly, to the whole country. You touched on it that there's not enough science and engineering graduates, in my view, that are graduating from our universities today, and that's something that long term, I think could conceivably put the United States at a disadvantage. And I think it's something that, as citizens of this great country, that we all have to be concerned about. Having said that, we live in the country that is the most innovative and is constantly reinventing itself. So I'm extremely optimistic that we're going to continue to find great talent and great people to be part of our company as well as part of our community.
Well, we certainly appreciate that you are and your company are, part of the solution in regard to that. You've been out there in the forefront in this area with a number of other companies that have, said that there is a need, and we'll all work together to solve that challenge. Another comment that I enjoyed that you made that people think about, well, we're establishing things in this particular region or in the country, or how many different countries we have our products and services in. And you mentioned that you actually are on 3 planets, which I thought was a great comment, and not one that many can say. So talk a little bit about that in terms of what you're doing beyond our atmosphere.
Well, EMS has always had a strong space heritage. We did the very first military communication satellites. We've been delivering space-qualified hardware since the 80s. Building products that can operate in space is very challenging, as you can imagine, because the hardware is subject to a lot of vibration and shock during launch and achieving orbit. There's also that issues of temperature and radiation and all those sort of things. We have several antenna ranges and thermal vacuum chambers in our facilities here. We test the temperature, dynamic, and vacuum extremes, and put our stuff to the test that are more stringent than what you'd expect. But getting to the specifics, Tino, of your question, we're on the Cassini satellite, and its mission is to Saturn and Saturn's moon Titan, where we provide an essential part of the Ku-band radar for mapping Saturn's moon. Second, we're also on the Mars Odyssey, and the data coming back from Mars is transmitted through our amplifiers. And we developed the radar antenna essential for landing the Mars Science Lab, which NASA will launch next year. And we're also on the NASA Spitzer Space Telescope, which is an infrared space laboratory currently orbiting the Sun, which is the final mission of NASA's great observatory, the oldest of which is Hubble. So if you, I'm maybe stretching a little bit here, Tino, but even if you look at what we're doing with, with our division's LXC, which is antennas and live TV, we're on JetBlue. You could even make the case we're almost on 4 planets, but it's part of what we do, and again, as being an engineering-led organization, something that our people take a lot of pride in.
Well, moving back to our Earth, and but staying in the air, I've been reading about Airbus, and I understand that this is going to be obviously a huge airplane. First of all, seating 800 passengers, jumbo jet, and EMS is involved with that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The Airbus A380 will have passenger connectivity capabilities, email and internet access, and EMS develops the equipment for our partner Honeywell, the company selected to provide the communication solution. So, this will ultimately enable you to be able to, surf the web and use your BlackBerry and all those kinds of things that we as travelers find lacking, or sometimes we're happy about, depending on our perspective, in that environment. EMS sells in-flight satellite-based communication systems under its own brand and provides the technology to the 3 major OEMs, which are Honeywell, Rockwell Collins, and Thales. We're in an excellent position as a provider of key technology to the industry. Along with our position on the A380, EMS also has technology on the Boeing 747-8s as a standard fit, the A330, and the B737s as options.
So, now when, as a layman, when you get on the plane, they tell you to shut off all your devices. So that's all going to be changing in the next few years, or even more recent than that? I think I read something about by the end of this year something was going to occur.
Well, I think it is happening. It's really happening today in the military market and in the corporate business market. In other words, many business jets today have satellite communications in the cockpit, and they've extended it into the back of the plane, and EMS makes the technology to do that effectively. These are the routers and the normal infrastructure that you'd have on the ground. EMS manufactures those products in the air. And there really is what we see as being a jet boom. I mean, the corporate business jet market alone is growing at over 20% annually. Honeywell, one of our partners, released a forecast recently that said the market will need something like 14,000 new jets worth $233 billion over the next decade. And, we believe that, given our position in the air, that we'll get, some of that business. We also think that the commercial market is largely untapped. It's starting to be adapted in Asia. Many of the Asian carriers are putting in broadband into the back of the plane, as well as some of the early adopters in Europe. And probably in a few years, we'll be in a situation where, when you're flying in the air, you can use your laptop and you can use your BlackBerry to be able to surf even when you're up in the sky.
Well, as you said, that will make most people happy, I would think. So that's great news, and it sounds like that will be it has major potential in terms of a market for your business. And your theme early on in our conversation was investing in the stars, if you will. So you sort of have detached from some of the areas you thought weren't going to be as fast or growing, and put your resources into areas with great potential for growth. So I would think that this is an area that would be one of those.
It absolutely is. I mean, it's an area that grew last year more than 30%. It will also have healthy growth rates this year as well. And we believe that the whole aeronautical communications sector is something that we're uniquely positioned to be able to benefit from.
Now, last year, I think it was last year or the year before, we had you actually, your company presented through LXC at one of a TAG, MIT Enterprise Forum event, and we talked about the logistics area and, some of the RFID technology. Is that another area of growth for you?
It is, Tino. I mean, we're really seeing this year that, particularly in our warehouse markets and our port markets, that there is a lot of adoption of technology. It is also what I would call a blending of technology, where many of our products are Bluetooth enabled, many of our products are voice enabled. So in other words, there is actually an earpiece that goes in your ear and provides instructions to the operator. The beauty of that business is that it's all about ROIs and it's all about return on investment in that market. And many of the major companies that are in the logistics world are seeing productivity gains by virtue of adopting our technology. And in this world where everybody's trying to be more competitive, we're seeing great growth in those areas.
Let's talk. We're running out of time, but I think defense is something that everyone is interested in to a degree, and certainly our engineers and technology stakeholders that will be listening to this call will be interested in. What are the trends and what kinds of things will you be doing in the area of defense, and when you're looking at growth over the next couple of years?
Well, our defense business continues to benefit from a strong military space segment. We've talked a little bit about that. With the next set of advanced EHF, a wideband global satellite, and TSAT military satellite programs all represent solid opportunities for EMS to support the military's constant thirst for bandwidth. On the commercial side, we are supplying RF hardware for the communications payload of Globalstar 2. Globalstar is the next generation of 48 LEO satellites that will begin launching 2 years from now. We're both on the digital satellite radio networks. We're supplying hardware for live TV. I mentioned that before, to bring global broadcast TV to passengers on JetBlue. Clearly, as more of our current commercial satellites age and begin to look to replenish their constellations, the commercial space market continues to get better for EMS. Our wireless technology in that area, again, continues to be state-of-the-art. We are working on many of the country's most sensitive military programs. EMS has always been known as an organization that people come to for some of the most difficult engineering products. And we're proud of what we do. There's a lot of people in this company who care about their country and are proud to be a part of its efforts to remain technologically superior.
We, 20 years ago, I guess maybe it would be at least 20 years ago, when you thought about satellites, you thought about the government and it being driven by the public side. But is the vast percentage of satellites being developed commercially now, or is that?
It's about mixed. It's kind of about 50-50, I'd describe it. I mean, obviously there are there's a lot of people who are trying to stake claims to land, and they're finding that it isn't necessarily on Earth, that it's up in orbit, and doing broadcasts to regions of the country. And not only are they interested in establishing satellite links, but they're also interested in our jamming capability to make sure people are not able to jam satellites and people aren't able to shoot down satellites and all those kinds of things as well. And EMS is, again, we're the communications people who understand how to talk to the satellites, how to enable that communications to occur under really any circumstances.
Just last question. We in Georgia, we're tagged as a State of the Industry report, which will be coming out in February. We'll be presenting it at the Georgia Technology Summit on February 27th. And we see that a good number of our companies are being acquired. And, it's great to have EMS here in town. Is there a consolidation occurring in your industry as well? What's happening in that area?
Well, there is inevitably, and it's nothing new. I mean, there is inevitably companies that are consolidating, other companies that are, divesting divisions and doing all of that. It's all about the creation of value. EMS is a great company. EMS has got great technology. I think from my perspective, my job and the management team's job here is to continue to, generate great results, and that's what we're all very, very focused on, which is to continue to put up numbers like we did this past year, and to get the market to recognize that, that there's this great company that exists here, and we're fortunate enough to be in the Atlanta market, which is a vibrant market. We're fortunate enough to have organizations like TAG that support us and to continue to work with the companies like us to be the best that we can be. And, that makes me extremely optimistic for the future.
Well, congratulations on your company and your success since 2006. And we've been talking with Paul Domorski, who is the president and CEO of EMS Technologies. Paul, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk.
Thank you, Tino. Bye now.